talking about this data center set to come to the town of Minooka, and it is proposed to be on more than 300 acres of farmland. This is near Hope Road and Ridge Road, and there's a huge meeting unfolding there at 6 o'clock tonight, right at the Village Hall. And here to talk to us about it is the Village Manager, Dan Duffy. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to talk about this.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
Well, let's talk about this first. Let's talk about the basics of this proposed data center and really what it means for the community.
Yeah, so I mean, folks are hearing about data centers, learning about data centers probably over the last year, maybe 2 years, but I know most recently it's become big in our area probably over the last year. Our data centers, like you mentioned, is just a shy under 400 acres. We had a meeting last night, an open house is tonight, but the meeting last night was primarily the public hearing as we look to annex the property in. It's really focusing on 7 buildings. So ours is a little bit different. It's a campus feel. Some of the data centers up north, you'll see on 1 or 2 buildings situated, hidden inside a block or something. This is more out there. It's like you mentioned, going on a large cornfield. Folks familiar with our area, as you come by I-80 and 55 and go west on 80, there's a large gas energy plant, and it's going right next to that. So again, it'll be about 7 buildings located out in the middle of nowhere for now. Hopefully development will come up after that. But yeah, it's for us, it means a lot for the village of Minooka. You know, we're about a small town still, 13,000 population roughly. We grew into 2000s pretty tremendously. But for us alone, it means new property revenues, new jobs, new investment. Yeah, it's all around a good project for us.
I'm familiar with the area that you're talking about because if you're driving there on I-80, when you talk about the gas plant, sometimes you can kind of see the fiery orange burning in the night sky. So I'm familiar with where you're talking about. I hear the positive. In some cases, when these data centers erect and people have questions about them, they're concerned about water, they're concerned about their energy bills going up. What have you learned about this particular data center that shows that won't be a problem for people that live in your community?
Yeah, good point. We had a couple concerns last night from residents, and 2 of those main concerns were just that. 1, the consumption of water, and 2, the unknowns, what's going to happen with the energy, because they are high energy users. First and foremost, the water. When the project first came to Minooka, they suggested utilizing water as a cooling system, and they need millions and millions of gallons a day. We were not prepared to be able to give them that water. We're going down the road of working with the Grand Prairie Water Commission, which is an effort to bring Lake Michigan water down to this area, down to the Joliet area, and we're part of those efforts. We would almost burn up our allocation for the next 20, 30 years with just this one project. So they realized the time frame, time constraints associated with that. They backed off and actually went to a dry system, which uses hardly any water at all. It's equivalent to the same water as a warehouse would use. So that meant more electricity, which then a lot of residents still ask about the electricity side. And that's not our lane. You know, we're more into development and investment jobs. We brought ComEd in to give us an education so the folks could listen to the experts on this. And they told us basically, yes, they're large energy users, but the fear of them pulling energy away from our houses or having brownouts is not the case in this area. 2 things we learned. This area is actually, Northern Illinois is an exporter of energy. We have a lot of nuclear plants in the Grundy County area, Dresden, LaSalle. I mean, so those plants generate energy and they export to neighboring states. And then 2, large projects like this are on a different line altogether. They're on the large KV lines you see over cornfields, not on the residential lines you see along streets. So residents are pulling from 2 different lines than projects like this. So there would be no distraction from that.
I'm looking at this and it says that it sounds like the village has been told that water will not be a huge problem because it's on a closed loop system, similar to like a radiator operating in your home. Can you explain what that means for people that are watching this?
Yeah, so now technically I can't give the technicalities of it, but yes, you're right. They'll bring water in, it'll come in, it'll close off, and they'll use that water circulated through a system. That system is then cooled by the air, much like our air conditioning. So originally those large water users, data centers, did not do that. They brought water in and they constantly needed more water. This brings water in, it closes it off, and it stays within the system, hence the substantially less water need.
You brought up the fact that they were considering looking at bringing water from like Lake Michigan. Is that still on the table, or was that just something that was discussed?
Yeah, it was discussed early on in the project. They were exploring all avenues. Once they found out that the timeline to get additional allocations to Minooka was not an option for them, they abandoned that idea, and I went to the dry system.
So far, I know obviously a lot of this is still evolving, but what can you talk about in terms of the developer and what their track record is? Have they gone to other communities similarly to Minooka, and what has the project been like in those places?
Yeah, so that was our first and foremost questions were, who is this, who is Equinix? Who are they? Who are they coming to our community? Because at the end of the day, over the last 3 years, we've had a lot of what I would call just folks kicking tires, looking for large swaths of land to actually be located for a data center. Equinix came along, and they, right out the gate, seemed to be the real deal. We did a research on them, and I believe they've got about 270 data centers worldwide. They're actually, in the United States, they're all over the major cities, from LA, Philly, Chicago. And within about 2 weeks of meeting them, they offered to show us a couple of their facilities just to the north, and Elk Grove was the closest. So we took our trustees up there, checked around, asked questions, fully vetted them, make sure they were the real deal. And from there on out, it's been nothing but a great project.
One thing that always comes up in conversation with a lot of this talk of new development, people ask about specifically their taxes. And one interesting, I think, point to add here is you're kind of like your location falls into, if I'm not mistaken here, 3 counties. Am I wrong? Is it Will, Grundy?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Will, Grundy,
Yeah,
and also
3
Kendall.
locations.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's Will, Grundy, and Kendall County, yes.
Perfect. I wanted to ask you about that. Will there be some subsidies given to this company? Will there be any possible tax relief to people that live in those counties?
Yeah, so another good question came up. A young lady last night in the public hearing asked about her taxes, right? She wanted to know, what's this going to do for my taxes? And Minooka's had a track record of bringing in logistics for a long time. And over the last few years, we've tried to diversify that, get away from all the truck traffic. We brought in some hotels. But along with those logistics centers and warehouses and hotels, it helps residential tax burden, if you will. So when we draw counties, schools, villages need tax revenues to operate, we look to our tax base. That includes residential all across the board. So the more you bring in of one, the more you bring in of logistics and warehousing and commercial, that's going to ease the burden on the residential side. So you want that mix, that balance. Now you add in a data center, and the rough estimates on that project, once it's fully up and going after about a 5 or 6 year build out, they think they'll produce about 6 million to 7 million potentially in annual property taxes for this area. Those are brand new revenues. And then you add in other things like a utility tax. They have a large utility use. And in Minooka, much like other neighboring communities, we have utility taxes. That'll generate taxes revenues to our village as well, brand new revenue. So that turns around to new streets, new police protection, just a whole host of new opportunities for this area. That's why we're excited to bring them in the area and make them part of our community.
You said new opportunities. That means with a project of this magnitude, that means jobs. Any idea how many permanent jobs will exist as a result of this happening?
Yeah, so kind of give an example. We mentioned the warehouses, right? We've got several 1 million square foot warehouses. They usually bring in about 200 to 300 jobs. This data center has a total of building space. They've got about 1 million square foot there, although the job count is a little lower. I think it's around 120 or 130. But when you do the math, the jobs coming in with this data center have an average salary of right around 135,000. Those are good paying jobs for this area. And that's what we want to see. We want to see different opportunities for folks all across the board, and this will help bring in new jobs that are just going to be a nice breath of fresh air.
Minooka is a very beautiful area, rolling hills, open land, a lot of farmland there as well, and really a renovation, I would say, of new homes being built there as well, because you do have industry that's starting to set up shop there. You're nestled right between Shorewood, Joliet. So my other question to you is, are you seeing a boom already and developers there wanting to build homes to accommodate all of these new businesses, all of these new manufacturing that's coming into town?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like I mentioned earlier, in the early 2000s, we saw a huge boom. I think in the 2002, 2003 range, we might have been 3,000 people. And then we boomed to about 13,000 now. So we, obviously, like in many communities, we saw that drop off after '08, but we're starting to come back. We've got two large scale developers looking at us coming back that have already built in Minooka. One's Lennar. We've been talking about that at a few board meetings lately. But yes, along with that large development like data centers, people take notice. And that's what we're hoping. We're just hoping this brings more and more development to the north of us. You are right. There's a lot of rolling hills, open space up north, but that is our growth area towards Kendall County, and we hope this project is a key part of that.
I will admit it is very, and it doesn't really need admitting here, but it is very beautiful. The area is absolutely beautiful. I'm sure a lot of people are excited about this, but you have some people there that want to keep it, kind of untouched and kind of tucked away. Dan Duffy, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming and spending some time with us on this subject.